Welcome to Computer Newbies Part 1. In this class, you'll learn about types of computers, computer hardware and software, using the Windows operating system, and using the mouse. To learn about the basics of computers, we will view a presentation at gcflearnfree.org. This is a free online learning site sponsored by the Goodwill Community Foundation. If you would like to review the computer basics section of this website yourself after class, the website address is here, displayed on the left-hand side of my screen. It's gcflearnfree.org, and we're working in the computer basics section. For now, you do not need to navigate to GCF Learn Free. You may watch my screen, and we'll go through the computer basics, what is a computer section of this website. Let me go ahead and move my computer screen to the first part of this section. What is a computer? A computer is an electronic device that manipulates information or data. It has the ability to store, retrieve, and process data. You may already know that you can use a computer to type documents, send emails, play games, and browse the web. You can also use it to edit or create spreadsheets, presentations, and even videos. Two terms that you need to be familiar with if you're going to work with computers are hardware and software. This section is titled Hardware versus Software. Let's look at the definitions of hardware and software. Hardware is any part of your computer that has a physical structure, such as the keyboard or mouse. It also includes all of the computer's internal parts, which you can see in the image below. Software is any set of instructions that tells the hardware what to do and how to do it. Examples of software include web browsers, games, and word processors. Below, you can see an image of Microsoft PowerPoint, which is used to create presentations. Everything you do on your computer will rely on both hardware and software. For example, you may be viewing this lesson in a web browser right now, a web browser such as Internet Explorer or Google Chrome, and using your mouse, hardware, to click from page to page. As you learn about different types of computers, ask yourself about the differences in their hardware. Now, what are the different types of computers? When most people hear the word computer, they think of a personal computer, such as a desktop or laptop. However, computers come in many shapes and sizes, and they perform many different functions in our daily lives. When you withdraw cash from an ATM, scan groceries at the store, or use a calculator, you're using a type of computer. Desktop computers. Many people use desktop computers at work, home, and school. Desktop computers are designed to be placed on a desk, and they're typically made up of a few different parts, including the computer case, monitor, keyboard, and mouse, and we'll talk more about the different parts of the computer in the next section of the course. And here's a picture of a laptop computer. You may be familiar with a laptop computer, commonly called a laptop. Laptops are battery-powered computers that are more portable than desktops, allowing you to use them almost anywhere. Tablet computers, or tablets, are handheld computers that are even more portable than laptops. Instead of a keyboard and mouse, tablets use a touch-sensitive screen for typing and navigation. The iPad is an example of a tablet. Servers. A server is a computer that serves up information to other computers on a network. For example, whenever you use the internet, you're looking at something that's stored on a server. Many businesses also use local file servers to store and share files internally. Other types of computers. Many of today's electronics are basically specialized computers, though we don't always think of them that way. Here are a few common examples. Smartphones. Many cell phones can do a lot of things computers can do, including browsing the internet and playing games. They are often called smartphones. Wearables. Wearable technology is a general term for a group of devices, including fitness trackers and smartwatches, that are designed to be worn throughout the day. These devices are often called wearables for short. Other types of computers also include game consoles and some TVs. PCs and Macs. Personal computers come in two main styles, PC and Mac. Both are fully functional, but they have a different look and feel, and many people prefer one or the other. PCs. This type of computer began with the original IBM PC that was introduced in 1981. Other companies began creating similar computers, which were called IBM PC compatible, often shortened to PC. Today, this is the most common type of personal computer, and it typically includes the Microsoft Windows operating system. Macs. The Macintosh computer was introduced in 1984, and it was the first widely sold personal computer with a graphical user interface, or GUI, pronounced GUI. All Macs are made by one company, Apple, and they almost always use the Mac OS X operating system. All right, let's move on to the next section of the GCF Learn site, which is basic parts of a computer. The basic parts of a desktop computer are the computer case, monitor, keyboard, mouse, and power cord. Each plays an important role whenever you use a computer. Let's learn more about each of those parts. We're going to start with the computer case. The computer case is the metal and plastic box that contains the main components of the computer, including the motherboard, central processing unit, also known as the CPU, and power supply. The front of the case usually has an on-off button and one or more optical drives. Computer cases come in different shapes and sizes. A desktop case lies flat on the desk, and the monitor usually sits on top of it. A tower case is tall and sits next to the monitor or on the floor. All-in-one computers come with the internal components built into the monitor, which eliminates the need for a separate case. Monitor. The monitor works with a video card located inside the computer case to display images and text on the screen. Most monitors have control buttons that allow you to change your monitor's display settings, and some monitors also have built-in speakers. Keyboard. The keyboard is one of the main ways to communicate with a computer. There are many different types of keyboards, but most are very similar and allow you to accomplish the same basic tasks. Mouse. The mouse is another important tool for communicating with computers. Commonly known as a pointing device, it lets you point to objects on the screen, click on them, and move them. And finally, the website lists some mouse alternatives, such as a trackball for playing games, or a touchpad if you're using a laptop computer. A touchpad is a touch-sensitive pad that lets you control the pointer by making a drawing motion with your finger. We are now finished with the GCF Learn 3 portion of the class, and we are going to return to the Windows desktop. I'm going to close my window, and now the Windows 7 desktop is displayed. And I want you to make sure that your Windows desktop is also displayed on your computer. So to use a computer, you will need to become familiar with its operating system. In this class, we're going to use the Windows 7 operating system. In Windows 7, the desktop, which is displayed on my screen now, is the background of the computer. At the bottom of the screen, where my mouse is moving, right down here, is the taskbar. On the taskbar, you will find shortcuts to commonly used programs. To access a program, click on its shortcut. And when you hear the terminology to click with your mouse, that means that you will use the left mouse button and click one time. I will now demonstrate how to use your taskbar to open Microsoft Word. When I look at my taskbar and the shortcuts on my taskbar, I see the shortcut for Microsoft Word, which is a blue W. You may open a shortcut on your taskbar at this time. If you have Microsoft Word, take your mouse pointer and click on it. If you do not have Microsoft Word in your taskbar, you might choose another shortcut in your taskbar to practice how to open a shortcut from the taskbar. So to open a shortcut, simply take your mouse pointer, point to the shortcut you want to open, and click. The shortcut that you have clicked on will open into the program that is assigned to it. I clicked on the shortcut for Microsoft Word, and that's the program that opened. And so for now, I'm just going to close that window, and we'll talk more about the Windows buttons as we move through the class. But on the top right of each window that you open is a close button. So for now, you'll go to the top right to the X close button, click one time, and now the desktop is displayed again. If I wanted to open Microsoft Excel, which is another program on my computer, I could do that by finding the Microsoft Excel shortcut, which has a green X, pointing to it and clicking one time. And here we are in the Microsoft Excel program. And let's just go ahead and use our X button on the top right to close it. And now we return to the desktop. The desktop also includes icons or pictures of commonly used programs on your computer. You'll notice my icons are over on the left-hand side of the screen. You may have some of the same icons that I have, but there's probably some differences between your computer and mine. The icons on my computer include Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. To open a program using an icon on the desktop, you must point to the icon with the mouse and then double-click with the left mouse button. Watch while I demonstrate, and you're welcome to do this with me. If you have the Excel icon on your desktop, you may point to the Excel icon. If you don't have Excel and you'd like to use a different icon on your screen, you can go ahead and move to that. And every icon on the desktop is opened in the same way by pointing and double-clicking. And here we are in Excel. And for now, we're just going to close it using the X. So you can see that you can access the programs on your computer either by the taskbar or with the mouse. Because we're in Windows 7, you must become familiar with using the Windows button. So to practice using the Windows button, we're going to go ahead and use a window in your web browser. I'm going to go ahead and use Internet Explorer to open a window, and I want you to make sure that you also have a window open in Internet Explorer. But to open Internet Explorer, we're going to take our mouse and find Internet Explorer on the taskbar. If your computer does not have a shortcut for Internet Explorer on the taskbar, go ahead and look on your desktop and see if you have an icon for Internet Explorer. So I have an icon on my computer on the desktop, which is here, and I also have a shortcut on the taskbar. And I'm going to go ahead and use the shortcut on the taskbar. And I'll click Internet Explorer. And now I am at my home page of Internet Explorer, and this is the page that we're going to use to practice using the Windows button. You may have a different window displayed in Internet Explorer, and that is perfectly fine. As long as you have a window displayed, you can practice using the Windows buttons. So, every window has 3 buttons that display on the top right. I'm going to move my mouse up into that area. And let's talk about each of these buttons. For now, I want you to notice that I'm not clicking on the buttons. I just want to define the buttons for you so you'll know what each one does. I'm now pointing to the minimize button. When I use this button, I minimize my window to the taskbar. And what that means is that I'm going to use that window again later. I just want to set it aside and have it shrink down to the taskbar so I'll be able to easily use that window again when I need to. The middle button is called the Restore Down, Maximize button. That button is used to either decrease or increase the size of the program window. And then finally, the Close button. The red X closes your window. Often it will ask you if you want to save when you close that window. Now let's take the opportunity to learn how to use the Windows buttons with some hands-on activity. If you feel that you need to review any of the hands-on practice, simply stop the video by clicking on the stop button, practice whatever skill we're working on, and then you can return to the class by clicking the play button. Let's start by using the minimize button. You will take your mouse button, point to the minimize button, and you'll click one time. The window has disappeared. Because we have used the minimize button, it has minimized down to the taskbar. We were using Internet Explorer, so I want you to notice that if I look at my Internet Explorer button down in the taskbar, that button is highlighted to show that there's a window inside of Internet Explorer that is still active. So by using that button, I have not closed the window, I've minimized the window. If I want to display the button again, I will simply go to the shortcut on the taskbar. So I've moved to the Internet Explorer button, and I'll click. Now that window is displayed again. So let's review that just one more time. Remember, the minimize button minimizes the window to the taskbar. To minimize a window, you will take your mouse, find the minimize button, and you will click. When you want to use a minimized window again, you should find its shortcut on the taskbar and click. Now let's talk about the middle button. This middle button is called the Restore Down, Maximize button. Right now, the window is maximized on the screen. What that means is it's taking up the full screen or the entire screen. Sometimes when you're working in Windows, you'll want to see more than one window at a time. And when you want to do that, then is a great time to use your Restore Down button. So to use the Restore Down button, you're simply going to point your mouse to the Restore Down button, and you're going to click. Now your window is at a smaller size. Your window may be at a different size than my window. When windows are restored down, they are not always restored to the same size on each person's computer. But when a window is restored, it gives you the chance to see the desktop if you want to open other programs or to see other windows that are displayed. When a window is restored down, you can move the window and you can resize the window. So let's practice that. At the top of your window, there is a bluish grayish bar. And if you move to the very top of the window, you will see a white mouse pointer. When you're in that area of the top of the window, you can move your window. So I'd like you to practice that. Take your pointer, move it to that top bar of the window, practice moving it. And as I'm moving it, I'm pressing and I'm holding down with my left mouse button. So once again, the steps are to make sure you have the white pointer in the top bar. You want to make sure you don't move up to the window border and get a double arrow, because that will not move it. It's very important that you have this type of arrow. Then you're going to press, hold down on your left mouse button and keep it pressed down, and you can move the window. Like I said, if you feel like you need some more practice with this, you can always stop the learning video right now, and you can practice moving the window a little bit more, and then you can return when you've got that skill and you can use it properly. Now let's talk about something else you can do with the restored window, and that is resizing the window. To resize the window, you'll want to have a double arrow. And that double arrow will display when you move your mouse to any of the borders on the windows. For example, when I go to the top border, I get a double-headed arrow. Now I'm moving it to the right border, and you have to be very precise. You have to be right over that border. When I move it to the left border, I also get a double arrow. Now the way my window is, I'm going to move it up just a little bit. Oops, and in that case, I clicked on it and I maximized it, so let me restore it back down. If I move down here to the bottom border, I get a double-headed arrow. So when the double-headed arrow displays, that means I can resize the window. I can make it bigger or I can make it smaller. If I want to make this window bigger, I'm going to stretch it from the right-hand side, or I probably should say resize it. I'm just going to move to the border, make sure I have my double-headed arrow. I'm going to press and hold down on my left mouse button. I'm just going to go ahead and move that, and you can see I'm resizing it and I'm making it bigger. Or maybe I want to resize it from the left border. Remember, you can resize it from any border. Now you can also resize from a corner. So if I wanted to resize both the width and the height at the same time, I could move my mouse right down here to that corner. Now remember, you have to be very precise because your mouse can display in different ways. And in this case, we want a double-headed arrow. In this case, we want that arrow. So practice resizing. Practice resizing by moving your mouse to the corner and getting a double-headed arrow. And then practice resizing by moving to any of the borders. I'm going to go to the top border this time. And then resize. And what I'd like you to do is work on resizing so your window is approximately the same size as mine. So you may move to any of the borders, get that double-headed arrow to do that. And I'd also like you to position your window in the same position I have mine. I'm going to move mine over just a little bit to center it a little more, but just to review, when you're moving a window, the mouse pointer should display as a single white pointing arrow. And remember, to move the window, you'll want to go ahead and click up in the bar at the top. Right? So you want to move your window and resize your window so it looks like my window. And I'll give you just a few minutes to do that. Okay, so now that you've done that, let's talk about the close button. And we had talked about that previously in the class when we had demonstrated how to use the taskbar. But remember, with any windows in window, you'll want to make sure that you know how to close the window. And to close the window, you'll go to the red X, move your mouse pointer there, and then click. And now we've returned to the desktop. So, we're going to practice using those Windows buttons, but this time we are going to open two programs, and we are going to practice moving and resizing the windows so we can see both windows and the contents of the windows at the same time. For this part of the class, we're going to go ahead and open Excel, and Word. Remember, when you're opening Excel or Word, your computer may have the shortcut on the taskbar, or you may need to use the icons on your desktop. I'm going to open Word by going to the shortcut on my taskbar. So, go ahead and open Word. If you have the shortcut on your taskbar, follow what I'm doing, or as an alternative, if the icon is on your desktop, you could double-click to open Word. So let's move to whichever method we're going to use to open Word. We'll do one click if it's on the taskbar. If it's an icon on your desktop, you'll need to do a double click. Go ahead and open that window. So you have opened your window in Word, and the window is at full size or maximized at this point. I'd like you to restore down that window by coming here, clicking Restore Down. Now remember, your window may be a different size than mine, but at this point, I'd like you to move it so that it is on the right-hand side of your screen, and in that way, when we open the Excel window will be on the left-hand side of the screen. So to move the window, we're going to move up to the very top of the window. We are going to have our white mouse pointer display. We're going to click and hold down with our left mouse button, and then we're going to move that. So now we have one window open. Let's open another window. Let's open the Excel window. So to do that, you may double-click on the icon on your desktop, or if you have a shortcut on your taskbar, like I do, go ahead and click. All right, so my window opens up. It's in a maximized or full size. So I'm going to go ahead and restore it. And now I want you to notice that I have two windows open on my screen. Let's move the Excel window over slightly to practice our Windows moving skills. Now remember, to do that, you're going to move up to the top of the window. You are going to have the white pointing arrow. You're going to press and hold down and move that. Now let's practice resizing windows. Here's a little challenge for you. What I'd like you to do is I would like you to display these windows one on top of the other. So to do that, and your windows may not be exactly positioned as mine are, but our challenge is going to be to resize the windows so that we can fit one on top of the other. Remember, you can resize windows by moving your mouse down to a corner, and then you'll get the double-headed arrow. So to start, I'm going to resize this window so that it is sized to take up about half of the screen from top to bottom. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this Word window. Now I'm going to resize it, but I'd like this Word window to be underneath the Excel window. So once I resize it, I'm going to move it. Now, like I said, your windows may be in different positions and in different sizes. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this to you, and then you can do what you need to do in order to move and resize your windows. So I want my Word window to be down here at the bottom of the screen. So this will give me some practice in resizing it. I'm going to actually resize this from the left-hand side. And it's not quite reaching the bottom of the screen. So I'll take my mouse, get a double-headed arrow, put that there. Right? So you want to take some time to move and resize. Remember, use that double-headed arrow to resize your Microsoft Word window so it looks similar to mine in position. So it's down towards the bottom half of the desktop, and it's resized to stretch across the screen. Now, once you have accomplished that, you're going to go ahead and resize the top window, which is our Excel window, so that that fills the screen from left to right, and then it's going to approximately fill the top half. Many times when you're working in Windows, you'll want to see both programs at the same time. So it will be important that you can display your windows so you can actually see what's inside each window. And if you take other classes through My Recovery Works, such as Word and Excel, you will see why it's important to be able to see both those windows. Now, if you have your windows sized and positioned like mine, let's continue on. If you're still working with that, you might want to stop the video and get your windows positioned as mine are, and then return to the class when you're ready. Okay, so we have the Excel window positioned above the Word window. Let's practice again with these buttons. We need to talk about the middle button. The middle button has two different names, and it's called the Restore Down / Maximize button. When your window is restored down, and restored down means that it's not taking up the whole screen. It's only taking up part of the screen. So I can see that my Microsoft Excel window is not at a full screen or maximize view. It's only taking up about half of my screen. If I want to focus on that window, let's say I wanted to do some work in Microsoft Excel, I may want to maximize that window. So when a window is restored down, that middle button becomes the Maximize button. And when we click that button, the window will take up the whole screen. So for your Microsoft Excel window, I want you to go ahead and click the Maximize button. Now this window is maximized. Remember, when a window is maximized, it takes up the entire screen. Remember, when you're done working in a maximized window and you want to see the desktop or you want to see a window behind it, then you can use the middle button. And remember, in a maximized window, that middle button is now called the Restore Down button. I'd like you to point to the Restore Down button and click on it. Notice what happens. Now the Microsoft Excel window is restored down to the size that you had it before you maximized it. Let's try using the Maximize button with the Word window. Go ahead, move your pointer down into the Word window, find the Maximize button, which is the middle button, and click on that button. Now Microsoft Word is maximized. Let's say that you needed to type a letter, which is what Microsoft Word could be used for. When you were done working on the letter and saving the letter, and those are skills you would learn if you took the Microsoft Word class, when you were finished, and if you wanted to see the Excel window again, you could restore down the window. So let's go ahead and click the Restore Down button. Okay? And now we have both windows open. We also need to talk about active windows. When you have more than one window open, one window can be your active window, and that would be the window that you were working in. So if I wanted to work in Microsoft Word, I would want to click on the Microsoft Word window. And notice when it's the active window, I have a flashing insertion point there, which would allow me to type in that window. Now, if I wanted to make Microsoft Excel the active window, I could click on up at the top. This is called the title bar of the Microsoft Excel window. Notice that window becomes active, and I know that window is active because this area here, which is called a cell, becomes highlighted in yellow. So now my Microsoft Excel window is active. If I wanted to use that, if I wanted to make my Microsoft Word window active, I would come to the title bar with my white mouse pointer and I would click. And remember now this window is active. Looks a bit different than the Excel window, but it has a flashing insertion point here. And I'm using my mouse to kind of point to that. My mouse looks like an I-beam, but I really want you to focus on that flashing insertion point. So if you were working in Word, when you type, that's where you would type the information. Okay, so let's go ahead and close both of these windows. So what I'd like you to do is move to the X in the Word window, click on Close, and then move to the X in the Excel window and click on Close. Now we're going to practice opening that Word and Excel window one more time. This time I'm going to show you an easier way to arrange the windows on the screen. And when you use this method I'm going to show you, you will not have to move and resize the windows. So just like we did before, we are first going to open the Word window and then the Excel window. So go ahead, open the Word window, and then open the Excel window. Now I want you to notice that both of these windows are going to open in the size that you left them in. Right? I'm going to show you how to use a pop-up menu. Now, a pop-up menu is a menu that appears when you right-click in a certain area of your screen. I'm going to ask you to move your mouse, go ahead down to the taskbar, and I want you to move into an area where there are no shortcuts. Now I want you to right-click, and you'll notice that this is the first time in this class we have used a right-click. Most often when you are working in Windows 7, you will use a single left click, which is just called a left click with your mouse. But from time to time, you'll want to use some special commands, and to do that, you'll use your shortcut menu. So, I'm sorry, I should have said your pop-up menu. Now your pop-up menu is going to look different depending on where you right-click. For now, we're going to use the taskbar pop-up menu. So what I'd like you to do is I would like you to cascade the windows. Now notice when we use this pop-up menu, we don't have to move the windows or resize them ourselves. We can simply choose a selection here in the pop-up menu. When you choose a selection, you're going to go ahead and use your left mouse button. So I want you to move your mouse to cascade windows, and I want you to click. Okay, now you have just done the cascade command, and what that means is the windows are cascaded. You can see the title bar of each one, and if you wanted to move back and forth from window to window, you would simply click. So if I click on Microsoft Word, that window is active. If I wanted to get back to Excel and I wanted to make that window active, you can see it's a bit hard to see that window, but if I can find any part of it, and I can even come down here and find the bottom part of my Excel window, and I click, notice how that becomes the active window. So to save room on your screen, you may choose to cascade the windows, just remembering that only one window is active, and that window will always be on the top. So for example, this is my Microsoft Excel window. It's on the top. If I wanted to make Word active, I would click on the Microsoft Word window, and that would be active. Now, using our pop-up menu, there are other ways to arrange these windows easily. Go down to the taskbar, right-click, and this time, please select Show Windows Stacked. Now, this looks like how we had arranged the windows before, but you can see this is much easier. Instead of having to move and resize them, you're letting the computer do the work for you. Now, there's one more selection I'd like you to try. So if you will go down to your taskbar and right-click, and this time find the Show Windows Side by Side command and click. And just like it said, now your windows are side by side. Remember, you can make a window active by clicking on the title bar. Remember, the Word window is active when you see the flashing insertion point. And if I move over to the title bar of the Excel window, that becomes active when I see this area highlighted in yellow. Now finally, when we're done working with windows, we're going to go ahead and close the windows. So to close a window, remember you'll click on the X, and then you'll click on the X again. I want to point out one other thing to you about Windows. When we were working in Word and Excel, the windows were restored down. And they're going to stay in that restored down position unless we maximize them. Go ahead and open Word. Go to your taskbar and click, or use your icon on your desktop and double click. Now, I want you to notice that this window is restored down. Many times when you're working in a program like Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, you'll want the window to be maximized. So let's just review that this button can act as a restore down button or a maximize button. So when this window is at a restored down size, we want to work in this program. It'll be much easier to work in this program if the window is larger or maximized. So let's maximize the window by going to the middle button, which is called the maximize button, and clicking. And this window is now maximized. Whatever size this window is when I close it, the next time that I open it, it will still be in that size. Let's practice that. Our Microsoft Word window is maximized. Let's go ahead and close the window by moving up to the X. And then let's open the Word window again. Now notice that this window is maximized because the last time we used it, it was maximized. So let's close that window. Right. So before taking other Recovery Works classes, it's going to be important that you know how to use your mouse. You've seen that normally with your mouse, it will be a left click. You've also seen that you may use a double click when you are opening a program from the desktop. And you've also seen that periodically you may right click in order to use a pop-up menu. If you feel that you need to review how to use your mouse, you might want to repeat this class or to repeat the sections of the classes where we use the mouse. And you should also feel very comfortable with using the 3 mouse buttons, the minimize, restore down / maximize, and close buttons. Remember, you can always retake this class until you feel quite comfortable with those concepts. And when you do, you're ready to move on. So before we end the class, we need to talk about, when you're all done with your computer, the option to shut down your computer or the option to put your computer in a sleep mode. One of the important parts of the taskbar button is the Start button, and that's over on the far left of the taskbar. You may use the Start button to open programs, but if you have shortcuts in your taskbar or icons on your desktop, it's just as easy to use those instead of using the Start button to start the programs. But when you shut down your computer, you will go to the Start button. Go ahead, move your pointer to the Start button and click. And then move your mouse to the arrow next to the Shutdown button. And let's talk about the sleep option. For now, we will not use that option. We'll just talk about it. If you click on sleep, it will put your computer into sleep mode, and that means your computer enters a low power state. The benefit of that is when you turn the computer back on again, it will snap back to life within just a few seconds. You won't have to wait for it to boot up. Everything will be right where you left off. However, you're going to use more power if you put your computer into sleep mode versus shutting down. So sleep is one option. Now, on the other hand, when you shut down your computer, all your open programs close and the computer shuts down the Windows operating system. The benefit of using shutdown is a computer that's shut down uses almost no power. However, when you want to use your computer again, you have to turn it on and go through what we call the boot up process. And during the boot up process, the hardware initializes and you will need to wait until your Windows desktop is displayed. Now, when I teach classes here at COVA in the computer classroom, at the end of the day, I always have the students shut down or completely power off the computer. And that's what we're going to do today. And that's what I would suggest you do. But I do want you to know there is a sleep option. So let's say that you were using a computer and maybe you were going to lunch or something. And maybe you wanted to not shut it completely down, but just put it in a sleep mode. Some people also choose, if they own a computer, even at the end of the day, to put it in a sleep mode, just so that it is more easily started up the next time. I would like to point out to you, though, that Windows does come with updates, and it is important that you always shut down your computer at least once a week so that you can get those very important updates. So, at this time, if you are finished using your computer and finished with the class, you should click on the Start button and shut down. Make sure before you do that you have completely closed out of the class and closed any windows you were using. Once you have done that, you can use the Start button and you can click on Shutdown. And thank you for coming to the Computer Newbies Part 1 class. When you have completed this class and feel comfortable with the concepts, you may want to think about taking the Computer Newbies Part 2 and some of the other classes we've offered.